Welcome to Chai with Ping. This is Ping Robert, and in this podcast, we will cover a range of different topics from culture, languages, and underrepresented stories. Join me with a cup of chai and listen to these stories. Hi, welcome back to Chai with Ping. Today we have a very special guest that she's gonna talk about BFRBs. And BFRBs are, I'm gonna let her introduce that notion to us. It's basically body-focused repetitive behaviors, and more and more people are getting this kind of symptoms or disorder, or how we define it. We will talk about that in the episode. But I met her in a support group, and then she just brought so many cool stories and experiences, which I think that a lot of us will benefit because we don't really know that much about BFRBs. So let's welcome Bree.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming to the show.
Yeah.
So Bree, tell us a little bit about your BFRBs. What is it for you?
Right. So going off what you said, BFRBs are body-focused repetitive behaviors. So that can be skin picking, which is dermatillomania, trichotillomania, which is hair pulling. Some people have nail biting, very extreme nail biting. I personally have trichotillomania, so meaning I pull my hair out. And when I describe it to people, I usually say it's like an OCD, but it's actually more recently described as, instead of obsessive compulsive disorder, as obsessive impulsive disorder. And the only difference there, well, the main difference is that compulsive disorder, when you have a compulsive disorder, there is a real fear there. And so, for example, if you are obsessive compulsive about, washing your hands, you're genuinely afraid that if you don't wash your hands, you're going to get sick. If you step on a back, you're really going to break your mother's back, things like that. Whereas it's very similar, but there's not an actual true fear. But that's what people understand the most is obsessive compulsive disorders. So that's how I usually explain it to people initially.
Would you say it's also a mental health coping mechanism?
I would say yes. I think that that's a part of it. I think that it can be a coping mechanism. It can be I'm doing it for no reason. I'm just bored. I'm doing it. It can be absent-minded. It could be a response to stress, anxiety, depression. It can be for so many different reasons. And I find that within myself, some people identify with one reason more than others. Like they only pull when this happens. But for me, and for most people, there's so many different things that cause us to do it, including a coping mechanism as well.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And as you mentioned, you have trick. So can you talk about a little about like how did it start and what's your experience with it?
Right. So it actually started when I was about 12 years old in 6th grade, which is such an awkward time, for everybody, and, wanting to fit in, especially as a girl trying to figure out, are we wearing makeup yet? Are we shaving our legs yet? Are we, what are we doing? And so I was talking to my friends, and they were talking about starting to groom their eyebrows, pluck their eyebrows and things like that. And so I was like, oh, I gotta get on this. I gotta start doing that. And I went home that day and I went to groom my eyebrows, and I just went completely, crazy and just pulled all my eyebrows out. Yeah.
Wait, how did you pull it? Didn't it hurt?
That's what everybody says, right? Like, doesn't hurt. It feels good. Like, to people that have trach, it feels good, just like how popping a pimple, can feel good. Everyone has something that they do, that is like ultimately self-sabotaging, but it feels good for whatever reason, or even if it's not self-sabotaging. I remember I was talking to my friend, about someone that has kind of like a skin picking disorder, and she was like, wow, doesn't that hurt? Isn't that crazy? And the friend that was saying that runs like forever. Like, she runs like 30 plus miles all the time. And I'm like, most people would look at you and say, that hurts, but you enjoy that, you know? And you know, that's something healthy that she does, of course, but you know, it does hurt. It hurts your joints. It hurts, you know, your feet. You know, people that run forever have blisters all over their feet, and they enjoy that, you know? So it's not really that far-fetched to have something that most people would just like see as hurtful or painful, and other people see as, you know, it feels like a relief.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I get where I feel almost claustrophobic, like I can't breathe, and when I pull, it feels like I can breathe again. And it's really hard to stop for that reason, because you're constantly telling yourself to stop, but your mind is telling you to go, and your body is also telling you to keep going. Because your body, like how it feels in your body is like, this is good, keep going, it's exactly what I need. Your mind, you know, keeps telling you to keep doing it. So it's really hard to fight all that and to really stop, you know.
And it is interesting that you remember clearly how you started. A lot of people, like I asked, and they have no idea. They're just like around this age, and I just kind of started. But you have a very clear memory about that.
Yeah.
And what happened the next day, like when you when you lost your eyebrows?
Oh, it was terrifying. And then I had to go back to school, and I just had no eyebrows, and that was really great. Especially, I was brand new to school. Yeah, so it was very bad. I used to, because especially back then, you know, first of all, I'm 12 years old. I can't buy my own makeup, and also back then there wasn't eyebrow makeup, and so I would have to steal. I stole like from my friends and stuff. I stole their eyeliner and would put on my eyebrows, and I looked absolutely ridiculous. Like I got made fun of so bad, and it actually affected me really, you know, negatively, of course, and I actually became kind of a bully because of it, because that's, you know, like that's what bullies do, you know. It's like sometimes people bully other kids so that they won't get bullied, you know. So sometimes, especially when I was afraid someone was going to make fun of me, I would just kind of make fun of them, and I was really depressed. I was really down, horrible self-esteem, and sometimes it came out in that way negatively towards other people. So that was really horrible.
Wow. Did anyone say anything to you regarding to no eyebrows?
Oh yeah.
What did they say?
Where are your eyebrows?
And how do you usually respond?
I just was like, oh my gosh, I was just in complete denial. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, have you seen yourself in the mirror? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I just completely like acted like this is not a thing. It was ridiculous. Just complete denial. I don't know.
So, and then you just mentioned that you became a bully because you became very aggressive about it.
Right, yeah, especially like not initially, like not right away, not in 6th grade. But you know, you kind of look around and you're like, what are the cool kids doing? You know, like how do I do this? And for me, like the school I was at, of the cool kids were major bullies, you know. So I wasn't really a bully until probably high school. And even then I wasn't, you know, a huge bully. I'm not walking around, you know, like knocking books out of kids' hands and stuff. But you know, sometimes I would be, just to, you know, that's what bullies do. Bullies put other people down to make them to lift themselves up. You know, people that have low self-esteem, you know, will talk like you know, negatively about other people and other people's looks, and meanwhile I'm sitting there looking like a clown. Like so it's taken me a lot as well to kind of get past all that, and I'm still working towards like kind of forgiving myself for all that, you know. I almost like felt like I needed to be punished for a really long time, and so I'm still kind of working through all that and realizing that, you know, I've learned from that, I've grown from that, it's not who I am. You know, that was a response to, you know, what I was going through at the time. So so sorry to everybody if I ever hurt your feelings.
That's a public apology coming out from Bree.
Sorry.
So like you mentioned that like I find it very fascinating because you said that this is not who you are. Like the action or the behavior is not who you are. And so I want to come back to that later, but I do want to understand first. So it's like, do you pull other hair off your body or just the eyebrows?
Eyebrows and eyelashes mainly. There have
Okay.
been times I get kind of obsessive about my split ends sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and there have been times that my hair has bothered me a little bit.
Yeah.
Just if it's like really unhealthy, and because I'm constantly touching my hair, I just like
Yes.
to,
Yeah.
and sometimes if it's really unhealthy, like I might, if I have my hair is blonde, so if I have like a black hair that's sticking all the way out, I might pull that out. Um, but
Oh.
but that hasn't been um to the extreme. But there have been times that my like picking my split ends. Oh my gosh, there's been times in high school that I sat there and I was given a test and I just sat there and picked my split ends the entire test and then filled in random answers because time was up and yeah, and I failed the test. Yeah, there's been times
Yeah.
it was really, really bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Do you find it soothing?
Um,
Like when you
it,
pull hair?
sometimes yes, and other times it's just I'm not sure if like soothing would be the right word as so much like this needs to be done in order for me to move on with my life. Like that's how it feels. Like I cannot
Oh.
do anything else in my life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
This
yeah.
is like randomly like first number one, so it's not sometimes yeah, it feels soothing, but other times it's just like I don't know, it just feels
Like this
like
is an
number one
unfinished
priority.
business. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Before anything else, this needs to happen. Um,
Ah,
but yeah, I've realized a lot that most times if I do it, it's really I'm missing something else in my life. Like say I'm really hungry, I'm really
mhm,
hot, I'm really
mhm.
stressed, things like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's what it is. And my brain, like the way it works is just this automatic response is like that's the answer to all my problems. It's like, oh,
Mm.
you're hot, you're tired, you have a test, you have whatever, is like you have to pull your hair. Like that's for whatever reason is my mind's automatic response to my problems.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like an immediate solution that you can actually do without
Right,
anything, but it's just like there you can reach to.
right, right.
Oh, okay. And then, so you already mentioned kind of like the triggers. Is there any other trigger that you realize or you come to know?
Um, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things, and I'm still constantly figuring out what they are. A lot of it is just trying to be mindful about about what you actually need. Um, but yeah, sometimes I've realized this is bad, but sometimes I realize that talking to other people that have like um, eyebrows or something that are like really unruly or something like that, that'll be triggering for me. And obviously, I can't control that. And so sometimes that lack of control, like I'll go home and then pull my own eyebrows, you know? Yeah.
Can you give an example? What, like, for example, what happened?
Just like when I have a conversation with someone and say the whole time, like, you know, their eyebrows are bothering me for whatever reason,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
nothing against them. I have, my own issue. And so
Mm,
it's more triggering to me looking at them, talking to them. And, that's obviously out of my control. It's not my face. So sometimes like I'll realize after something like that, I might go home, and pull or something. But also interestingly enough, like therapy has actually been very triggering for me. I think
tell us more.
I think that I don't know, I've realized a lot when I would go to see a therapist, I would maybe pull before and I would maybe pull after, almost all the time. And that I think was because like pretty much everybody that has trichotillomania or another BFRB um, also has anxiety and depression. It's pretty much always a package deal. And so I think the anxiety of me going and say if I haven't been 100%, I know what we're going to talk about. I know that they're just going to dig into, my past and my present. And, if I haven't been doing well, I feel like they're going to be almost mad at me. And so I'll pull out of, anxiety of going. And, a lot of times like I really haven't had any good luck with therapists thus far. I hope that my luck will change soon. But a lot of times, I'll have a conversation with them and they will just make me feel worse. I feel like a lot of therapists and psychologists, psychiatrists will kind of almost start to like overdiagnose you with other things, like, and then I leave feeling like I have more problems than when I first came. For example, I've gone and had them tell me like, oh, you have, body dysmorphia, because you look at yourself and you see things that are wrong, like mainly with my eyebrows and stuff, that are not wrong. But it's like, you don't need to throw in that. That's still trichotillomania. You don't need to throw in that like extra, issue. That's still just trichotillomania. That's just part of it. It's not like this is really necessary. So there's been times that I've left and I just feel worse about myself and I'll pull after. So right now I'm trying to try to do online therapy, hoping that will help with the anxiety of like going and leaving and stuff, because a lot of times I'll do it in the car too. So I think that will help, that I don't have to feel that anxiety of going.
Yeah, yeah. And how has that experience been, like online sessions?
I haven't started yet, actually. Yeah.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
have to let you know how it goes. I just signed up and I haven't
Yeah.
been matched with a therapist yet.
Yeah.
So I'll
Okay.
let you know how it goes.
Yeah, we can definitely follow up with some voice message with that.
Right.
I'm also wondering how do you define your relationship with your trick?
Um, it's I mean, it's been a journey for sure. I think in the past I've beat myself up for it a lot. Like I would pull and then I would not allow myself to do things. I would pull and I would just had really low self-esteem, and so it affected me in a way, like as far as my relationships go. I pretty much settled for like whoever was interested in me. I was like, I'm not going to find anything better. I didn't have any self-esteem to think that I could find like, a great guy or a great girl. So that was a struggle. But I think now, the most important thing for me now is that my self-esteem has improved a lot, to the point that I tell people that, love and care about me, that I have it. I can reach out to people that love and care about me and they can be there for me when I'm struggling. My self-esteem is better and I have just accepted it overall more, that, since I've accepted it, I can talk to people about it and say it in a way that I'm not ashamed. And I think that makes it less likely that other people are going to make fun of me for it. When you own your vices and stuff, when you own up to those wholeheartedly and don't make a big deal out of it, then it makes it less likely that other people are going to make a big deal out of it. So I think my relationship has improved a lot with my trichotillomania. I definitely still have a long way to go because I would like to beat it fully. I actually did stop for like 5 years, and then and
Oh,
I
yeah,
started, again.
yeah,
So I'm hoping I can get back to that spot. But for me right now, the most important thing is, just loving myself when I mess up, loving myself when I'm
yeah,
doing good. Because I definitely like have a totally different outlook on myself
yes,
when I have all my hair versus when I don't. So I'm
yeah,
trying to work on that. But at the same time, my ultimate goal is to really stop,
yeah.
and then hopefully help other people do the same.
Your story is quite powerful, and I can't help myself thinking like 5 years pulling free, and like so I want to understand a little bit about that 5 years. Like, were you doing great, or like, how did you actually stop? Because I think a lot of people suffering from, or suffering, if they define, for BFRBs, they really want to stop, but they're not able to. And how did that stop started?
Right. I when I started, I was 12, like I mentioned, and then that was I went off to high school, And it was really not much of a transition because all the same kids kind of followed me to high school. And so I think going to college, like that's when I was like, I don't want to be this person anymore. Because I was that person, I was that person like in the whole school, the girl with like no eyebrows or that drew her eyebrows on or whatever. So I think that I just was totally 100% serious that I am not being this person anymore. And I don't really know exactly how I stopped other than that. I never really truly like never pulled a single hair. But I never like I would pull like maybe one hair and that's it. And like a hair that was very like very out of the way that like probably other people would do the same. It's hard to know what other people would do when you're like this. But yeah, I don't know. I was just able to stop, and I actually I think I transitioned my obsessiveness to like for example, I was obsessed. Like I took forever to do my eyelashes. I had to curl them, and they had to be like perfectly curled, and it was like a big process. I would take a lighter and I would light my hair curler, my eyelash curler, so that it would stay. And it was just a big process. It would take me a while. So I think I just kind of transitioned that obsessiveness to my makeup. But yeah, and I think I was just very preoccupied with different activities. I was really, involved. I was doing rugby. I was working out all the time. Like I think that just the environment of the school, it being like a community, I lived on campus, and so everything was on campus. I was very easy for me to get involved in different things, and also I was constantly surrounded by other people. Whereas most people with BFRBs try to do it in private, and I didn't really have that opportunity. So I think that helped. But to be entirely honest, which I think is important, I also was getting, it was college, so I was getting like messed up a lot. And I think that definitely had something to do with it. For me personally, I do think that cannabis helps me a lot. So I think that was definitely part of it. That was like that period of time that I was experiencing cannabis and partying and things like that. So I think that I'm not gonna lie, that probably made an impact.
Would you say like maybe you have more distraction from your life and also kind of find a new thing that you can depend on, so then your pulling kind of stopped or improved like huge?
Right, yeah. I think definitely distracting yourself is huge, and also having goals that you're working towards. Obviously, I was constantly working towards goals, this final, that final, this final. And like I was in plays, working towards goals there, goals in rugby. And I think just like, all that definitely helped a lot. And I think exercising helps a lot. I know that so many people that exercise have found benefits from it. Not just people with BFRBs, but it improves everybody's mental health. So definitely recommend exercising. Make yourself exhausted, because that makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And then so after 5 years, how did it start again?
So I was living in Medford, Massachusetts, which is there's not like much going on. And I was working at a residential home for special needs students. So these kids were very severely challenged. I was not ready for what I was walking into. I don't regret it at all. I think that it's still had a positive impact on me, but I think that I'm just very empathetic, where I literally like feel what you're feeling. Like if you are stressed, especially to a certain point, like I'm almost stressed with you, especially at that point in my life. So these kids, I would watch them, and they would find the sharpest corner that they could find and bash their head against it until it was bleeding, like very severe. And these are children,
Oh, yeah.
these are kids. Some of them were as young as 2 years old, 3 years old, and to see it was very hard. And I would work 13-hour shifts. And sometimes like my coworkers, most of the time I will say my coworkers were great. There were times that you'd work a 13-hour shift and they would kind of kick you while you're down by like saying something to you. And so I think that it was just that. And then going home, I didn't have much going on at home, and there wasn't much to do, and so that was pretty much my entire life. That was all I was doing all the time. It was inserting myself in this very stressful situation and not really adequately relieving my stress at the same time. So, not hanging out with like a bunch of friends. I didn't really have any friends out there, wasn't exercising all the time, wasn't really involved in the community. So I think that was a major shell shock to me. And yeah, I think that it just started up again, which was
Yeah.
really unfortunate.
Yeah, the work and life kind of trigger you to restart. Um,
Right.
I have a question. I mean, so from my research, trick can happen to like the hair on your head, but like for you, it's focusing on eyebrows and eyelashes, but you have limited amount of them. So what happens
Right.
when you are out of them?
When I'm out of them, I stop.
Oh,
Yeah. Like, which is what makes it even harder for me to stop, because I know that once I'm done, I'm really done. And it really feels like I am free, in some ways. And at the same time, I obviously, not happy with myself. I don't like how I look, things like that. But at the same time, like, it's like my mind is given a break for a second. So yeah. And there has been times, like there was a time recently in my life that was very, very difficult. And I knew it was going to be very difficult. And I was like already starting to pick, and I knew that I was going to get very obsessive about it. And I just shaved my eyebrows off, because I knew that that's, what it was going to like ultimately come to. And I knew that the time in my life was so incredibly stressful that I didn't even want to have to, it takes so much mental work to not pull, that
yes.
sometimes it is easier just to do it,
Mm,
so that's kind of where, like, and in a way I felt like in shaving my eyebrows off, I was, taking control of the situation in a way. Yes,
yeah,
I still lost my eyebrows, but
yeah.
it was my choice to do it. And then my
Mm,
brain could kind of take a break for a second,
got it.
instead of sitting
Yeah.
there and obsessing over it for hours and hours, because I knew
Mm.
that it was going to be a stressful time anyway.
Yeah, I came across with a YouTube channel. This girl is a British girl, and then yeah, I think she did a similar thing. She shaved off her head several times, maybe
Right.
like once every 3 years. When she cannot take it anymore, and she's like, I need to stop my trick. So then I shave my head, and so yeah, that YouTube channel was like, whoa, very eye-opening for me to learn about trick and to see her struggle and journey as well. And I want to shift a little bit to our topic because I know right now you're kind of the representative of the BFRBs group in Colorado. How did that happen? How did that start?
So basically I got involved in it, and there was someone else running it at the time, and then she was pretty out of the way for Denver, because it is like supposed to encompass all of Colorado. But most of the people were in Denver, so it was hard for her to come. And she just had some other stuff going on in her life, so she just reached out to the group and said, who would be up to the challenge of, taking on this group. And that's always been something for me that has kind of helped me get through this, is hoping that I can get to the point that I can help other people. Because when I was little and I was going through this, I would have loved to even know what it was. I would have loved to have seen anyone else's story. I thought I was the only person in the world that had this. I thought I was like super freak. So it's very helpful for me to see other people with this disorder, and also to focus on like the positives is very important to me. So I wanted to kind of run it, both, to help other people, to fulfill my own goal of helping other people, kind of seeing like trick as a positive in my life, that I can kind of turn this around and help other people, but also to make sure that we keep it positive, because everyone with trick and BFRBs knows that this is like super annoying. And we vent as well, but it's also really important for me to to stick to positives and, what is working for you, and, lift each other up, and, like tell each other we're beautiful and things like that, because we really need to hear that a lot. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely agree. Yeah, and we're coming back to the topic that we mentioned before, like our behaviors are not ourselves. And so,
Mhm.
what are the biases that you have faced in the past? And can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Right. So probably the biggest thing that you get, that I get, is why don't you just stop? People just don't understand that you can't just stop, especially people that might see, like people decide if you seem, quote unquote, like normal. I don't know how you're supposed to appear. It's kind of a bizarre thing, but people will decide that, you're fine. You're fine, and it's a phase, and you need to just stop. And people just, they just don't understand, and I don't know how I'm supposed to appear for them to understand, people not understanding the anxiety that comes with it, the like incredible depression that comes with it as well, and kind of just that mentality of like, get over it, just stop. And also people saying that like, we'll just go get help, and not understanding that that doesn't work for everybody, and also it's really not that easy to do. We have a major crisis here in America of our mental health care system. It's not easy to get it. Not everybody has access. It's expensive. There's transportation. There's a lot of different factors at play. And also BFRBs specifically are not really well known even in the psych community.
Yeah,
So it's not easy to find a psychiatrist that specifically knows about BFRBs and specifically will know how to treat you.
that's right.
So yeah, I would say those are probably the biggest biases
Yeah.
I've faced.
I also heard people saying that treating BFRBs is a very long journey. It
Right.
can be cured, but I don't really know how many people can actually have the access and to afford all that sessions going through that journey. So thank you so much for talking about your own experiences. It's that's just powerful. And so then like facing those biases and you do have options to get help, but what do you do in the support group?
Basically, support each other, like hear each other's stories. We'll talk about different things that have helped us because, like you said, it is a journey, and also we are still figuring out how to solve this. There is no cure, quote unquote, right now. Different people have found different things to help, but we are still, as a community, trying to figure out what helps us. There's very little studies on it. The studies that do exist are not very helpful because I've seen a study recently that was literally ran across one person, and they were like, there's a 50% chance that this will help you. I'm like, that's not a real study, so it's very challenging. It can feel very lonely because it only affects about 1 to 2% of the population, and that's an estimate. They're saying that it could possibly be more because so many people are so ashamed of it that they often don't even seek help. They think that they're the only person that has this. So there are probably more, but because it is such a small part of the population, not many, like there's not much research done on it. So we try to just, talk about our latest struggles, and it's just nice to talk to someone that actually gets it, as opposed to when you go see a therapist, obviously they can help you and stuff, but there's nothing like talking to someone that you don't need to go into great detail to explain yourself because they already got you. They already know what it's like, they have the same struggles. Everybody's had, stories, and it's nice to just talk about it and sometimes laugh about it and sometimes cry about it. But basically to, try to be there for each other and understand each other's struggles, and hopefully, do what we can to figure this out. That's for me, and for many people with BFRBs, that's the ultimate goal, is to figure this out, for real.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, and that's very helpful. I mean, for people who want to understand, how would you say, Bree, as an outsider or an ally, they want to support people suffering from BFRBs? How can they approach this topic, or how should they say to avoid offending the community?
Right. So I've had a lot of people that will know about my trichotillomania, and they'll see me like pulling my hair out and stuff, and come over and slap my hands. Don't do that. Don't appreciate it. Or also will just tell me to stop. Like just walk past me and say, "Stop pulling your hair, stop pulling your hair." And I'm like, obviously, if I could stop, I would stop.
Yeah,
And
not
you
helping.
slapping my hand just gives me even more anxiety.
Yeah.
So that doesn't help. I've
Mm,
had people just like come up to me and go really close up to my face to kind of like see how I'm doing.
mm,
Please don't do that.
mm.
uh, like for me, if you like saw me pulling, then I think the best thing to just say is like, hey, what's going on? Because like I mentioned before, it really is just, there's usually just something else going on. My head might be somewhere else, like I could be really hot, really cold, like I was mentioning before, stress, anxiety about something else going on in my life, something that might be out of my control or whatever. So I think that's really helpful. I worked at a school, and I had a co-teacher, and she knew about it. And one time she saw me pulling, and I always would bring my ukulele into work and play for the kids and stuff. And she just came over and brought me my ukulele and handed me my ukulele, which was really nice. It's just kind of like no words need to be said. She saw I was pulling and was like, "Here's something else to do with your hands," kind of. If you are someone's, romantic partner, or you're affectionate with someone, just holding their hand might be nice. If like obviously a person's comfortable with that, but I think that really just coming from a place of understanding and saying, like, hey, what's going on? Like, do you need to talk? What do you need right now? Because they usually just need something else, even if it's just a change of environment. I think that environment can like also stress you out, or even just be in the same environment for too long. And other than that, there are resources online. If you have someone that you care about that has BFRBs, there are resources online that will tell you how to support someone with BFRBs, how to love someone with BFRBs, because it can also be kind of like exhausting to explain to someone else how they're supposed to love you and support you. Even though, it's understanding, it can also kind of seem frustrating that you're that difficult to understand and to love and support. Even though that's not the case, it can sometimes feel like that. So I would also suggest to look into those resources that are online. If you just type it on Google, you'll find pages that'll always tell you how to support, people with BFRBs, or really, anything else that you can think of as well.
Yeah, and also I think something you mentioned before is that everyone's different. So maybe just to ask questions to those loved ones, like how they want to be supported. That's also a very easy way, and to search resources and talk about it. Because I think,
Right.
yeah, a lot of times that when you're in a pit and then you really don't know how to pick yourself up, the other people, when they want to be supportive, probably it's easier to come into the pit and to understand the whole experience and instead of judging them. Um,
Right, right.
yeah.
And I totally agree with that. I have a really good friend of mine that he always says, "How can I support you?" And I think that that's great. And I started saying that too. And I've gotten other people started saying that. But not just for BFRBs, but in general, when someone is telling you about a hard time, sometimes people just want to be heard, and sometimes they do want advice. People want different things. So, depending on the person, depending on the certain situation, I think it's definitely important to just say like, well, how can I support you? Because you don't want to accidentally do the wrong thing, that will upset them more.
Yeah. Awesome. So I just thought of a metaphor I heard before. It's like instead of pulling someone who's in the rain, you should probably take an umbrella and stand with them in the rain because then you can have a conversation instead of changing the location of that person.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And a lot of people, I think, going back to what you were talking about before about like what, you know, people's reactions are to it, different biases. Like a lot of people just want to fix you kind of. And then, you know, that's their way of supporting you. And then they're kind of get frustrated when you're not getting better and things like that. So I do think that, you know, when you are loving someone with, you know, BFRBs, it is important to realize that, you know, this isn't your job to fix them. It's your job to support them. And that does mean sometimes just like, you know, like standing in the rain with them. Like there are times I'm sad, I'm crying, people are just trying to get me to stop crying. They're like, why are you crying? And I'm like, I'm just sad. I don't know. You know, and, you know, just be with me while I'm sad, you know, like you can try to make me feel better, but sometimes like you just need to let it out, and like you can be with me if you want to be with me, but I want to be sad right now because I need to get it all out, you know.
And that was a great conclusion. I will link the resources and also the support group for Colorado, the link in the email in the episode notes. And thank you so, so much, Bree. Is there anything else before we go that you want to mention that we didn't talk about?
Um, yes, actually, I would say that what, like, just, I mean, because I'm thinking of the little girl I used to be, and, you know, of little girls that are possibly listening to this right now. And I think that the most important thing is loving yourself above all else, with hair, without hair. And if you have trouble getting there, one of the biggest things that has helped me is actually like sleep hypnosis, because I realized that I was very depressed, had really, you know, negative thoughts in my head, and I think that it's in your subconscious mind, and when you listen to sleep hypnosis and positive affirmations and stuff, it's speaking to your subconscious mind. So I found that very helpful, and so I just want to throw that hopefully good tip out there to anyone that's listening and is having a hard time with that aspect of it, that's helped me out a lot.
Definitely. I will link the resources still. Everything will be in the episode notes. And thank you so, so much, Bree, for coming to the show.
Yeah, thank you so, so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Chai with Ping. Let us hear your voices and stories. Please share this episode, like and follow us on Instagram at chaiwithping. You can also email us at chaiwithping@gmail.com. Till next time.